Hello, and welcome to Lesson 3 of Mr. Appel's 5th grade Social Studies. Today, we're going to be talking about what are the differences between Democrats and Republicans. We've been talking a lot about the Senate and how they've been debating this stimulus bill. The 53 Republicans in the majority and the 47 Democrats in the minority, they've been debating this. But what is the difference between Democrats and Republicans in the first place? Well, Democrats are on the left wing of the political spectrum. Republicans are on the right wing. Why is it called left and right? It comes from in France in the 1700s, when the people who favored a more conservative viewpoint sat on the right-hand side, and the people who are more liberal and open-minded, free, would sit on the left-hand side. And that's where the terminology came from, and we still use it to this day. So what do Republicans and Democrats disagree on? Well, many, many things. So let's just briefly run through a few of them so you can understand what both parties are all about. The first issue they disagree on is the role of government. What is government actually supposed to do? According to most Democrats, the government is there to provide a safety net for people. A safety net, like think about an acrobat who's going to fall to the ground. They put a safety net there so he or she doesn't get hurt. Well, that's the way Democrats look at our society. They want to make sure that the people who are most at risk do not end up crashing, so to speak. People who are poor, people who are old, people who cannot afford to pay their bills or their medical care. So they want to make sure that the government provides some of these services, like providing free food, food stamps, credits to help people. Again, this is not every single Democrat doesn't believe in this, but we're talking about the majority of Democrats. They believe in things like government-run food stamp programs, some type of government role for health care. Some Democrats want the government to completely control all the health care. Some Democrats want at least some government control of the health care system. On the other hand, Republicans don't think the government should do all those different things that much, only when it's absolutely necessary. Why not? Republicans say those types of things are way too expensive and you can get help from other places or go to a regular doctor or get charity from a church or other religious organization. So there's a big difference of opinion as to what government is actually supposed to do. Issue number 2 is connected to that. Fiscal policy. Fiscal. Fiscal means having to do with money and the economy. Well, since the Republicans have a different view as to what the government is supposed to do, they also believe that the government should collect less money because it doesn't need to spend as much. Taxes should be lower. Taxes is how the government collects money. Democrats, on the other hand, say, well, we need to tax people, preferably the richer people. The more money you make, the more taxes you should pay. That's what Democrats believe in. It's actually originally was a Republican idea back on 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, with Theodore Roosevelt. It's called a progressive tax. The more money you make, the more taxes you pay. Now it's a Democratic idea. Republicans sort of agree with that, but less taxes for everyone. Okay, so fiscal policy is very different. The next issue is related to that. Labor versus the employers. Labor means work. And in this instance, when we say labor, we talk about the people who do the jobs, the workers. Employers are the people who hire you to do the jobs. So like the person who runs the factory is an employer. The person who owns the McDonald's restaurant is an employer. Republicans usually want to give the employer more freedom. Freedom to run his business the way he or she wants to run his or her business. Democrats would say, wait a minute, we have to protect labor. We need to give the workers more rights, like paying them a minimum wage, a baseline. You have to pay them this amount of money or higher. You have to give them health care. You have to give them leave. If they get sick, they should be able to stay home from work. Those types of things. Republicans would say, well, those are all nice, but that's up to the business to decide. Let businesses decide how they want to treat their workers. They obviously can't go too far, but it's up to them. So there's a huge difference between Democrats would usually support labor and Republicans would usually support employers. These are all very complicated issues that I'm trying to just really boil down to a level that we can all agree, understand here as a fifth grade class. Social and cultural issues, big one. Democrats, when it comes to social and cultural, that means what kind of society are we? What kind of culture do we have? Democrats are very much the party of, they try to be the party of all the different races and religions that we have here. Republicans would say they are as well. But Republicans want a more traditional America, the way it used to be. Conservative means to keep things the way they are, to conserve it. They want people to learn English. They don't want signs to be in English and Spanish. They want people to respect the American flag. They don't like protests too much. They want to respect the military. And respect the police and the firefighters. And Democrats respect them too. But it's just that they would say that Democrats don't do a good enough job in giving them their respect. There's a lot of cultural issues. Things like gay rights, gay marriage. That is a Democrat Party issue. Republicans were against that. So, again, it's a very complicated subject, but there are many differences on social and cultural issues. And the last one, because we've talked about this a lot in class, is the gun control issue. We learned in class that the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution provides people the right to own guns, bear arms. Democrats say we have to limit that. We need control of the guns. Limit the amount of guns people can buy, limit the types of guns people can buy. Republicans, again, think the government should just take a step back, let people have their guns, and if you want to limit it, yes, you can, but not too much. And that ties in with the fact that Republicans, in general, tend to come from rural areas, rural meaning farming, R-U-R-A-L, rural areas or more like the countryside, and Republicans are more popular down in the South and in the West, in the Great Plains. Democrats have their power in the cities, especially on the East Coast and the West Coast, and a little bit here in the Midwest. We unfortunately have been a very divided country, not just in the last month, but in the last, I would say, about 20 years. Ever since the 2000 election, every 4 years, the presidential elections have been very close. There have been no blowouts, no landslides. 2000 was extremely close, 2004. 2008, Obama won by about 7%, but even that was the biggest it got to. We haven't had a real blowout where a candidate won by over 10% since 1984, when Ronald Reagan won 49 states. And his challenger, Walter Mondale, only won Minnesota. So we are a very divided country, almost 50-50, and we are becoming polarized. Polarized means when people start moving to the poles, like the North Pole and the South Pole, people are moving to the right-wing pole and the left-wing pole. People don't want to be here in the middle anymore. They don't want to compromise. That's why we're seeing the debate that we're seeing in the Senate, and that's why people are very, very polarized. So I hope I explained some of the basic reasons Republicans and Democrats disagree with each other. Today, for your assignment, fifth graders at my school, your job will be to find as many differences that you can find. I'll put some links up. For the rest of you learning remotely, I hope everything is going well at your school. If anyone has any questions or comments, please feel to post them on the bottom. Thanks for listening, and stay safe.